I've created over 70 Skyrim builds. Some of them are good and others not so good. So I decided to go back to one of my old builds and redo it. The first build I'm going to tweak is the Ranger. Also, this build is going to use a immersive armor mod to better fit this character, so just a warning. The Ranger is a mysterious character from the forest of Valenwood. The Ranger uses their experience from hunting in the woods of Valenwood to track down foes for vengeance or for coin. I decided not to include an in-depth backstory for this build since the character is meant to be secretive and there isn't much known about their story. Each person who plays this build gets to create their own story. The main skills for this build are Alteration, Sneak, One-Handed, Archery, and Light Armor. Also, like always, Restoration, Enchanting, and Smithing are good secondary skills, but I'd put most of my points into the main skills. Alteration is used for the Detect Life and Detect Death spells. The Ranger has highly sharp instincts and uses these instincts in the form of Detect Life or Detect Death to find targets even through walls. The spells are useful to be able to get a drop on enemies or to check if foes in other rooms are moving towards you. The Sneak skill is used in this build but isn't necessary. The Ranger isn't afraid to run into a fight as long as they can set it up to their benefit. However, the Sneak skill helps to get into the right position to attack large groups of foes and allows the Ranger to get the occasional backstab. One-handed is a main damage skill for this build. The majority of the time you'll be dual wielding a sword and an axe. I chose to use an axe instead of two swords as a role-playing choice, that the Ranger would wield an axe to be able to survive in the wild while on long hunts. Archery is the secondary damage skill and it's mostly used for the sneak attack against foes far away, or if you need to kill a few people from a distance before taking on the larger group. Light Armor is a main skill for this build to increase survivability. For most sneak or assassin builds, Light Armor isn't important, because most of the time you're hidden. But with this build, you'll be running into fights often, and will get hit often as well. The Light Armor bonuses keep you alive longer, and the bonus perks like Windwalker, which increase stamina regen, and Unhindered, which makes Light Armor weigh nothing, helps flesh out the build and allow the Ranger to take on many foes at once. Overall, this build is more of a fighter than an assassin. When you play this build, you'll be using the detect spells often to find enemies. Finding their positions to allow you to set up traps will get the drop on your foes. The detect spells act like the Ranger's tracking instincts that many Rangers in fantasy lore also use. Once getting the drop on the foes, it's time to start slashing and stabbing bandits with quick dual wield attacks. Lastly, some final tidbits that you might want to know about this build. For armor, I used the armor from the Immersive Armor mod by Hoth Trooper 44. I used the Bosmer set because it fits the Mysterious Wanderer's role that I wanted to fit with this build. Also, the Bosmer armor makes sense because I picked Bosmer as a race since they are known as some of the best hunters in all of Tamriel. The Bosmer Animal Allegiance power also fits this build well. As a former hunter, they must know wildlife. For the weapons, I use an ebony bow, an ebony sword, and an ebony axe. I think this just looks the best with this build, and it matches the armor pretty well. The standing stone I picked early was the Warrior Stone, and switched to the Serpent Stone, which allows you to paralyze a target once a day to help in tough fights. I didn't use mini shouts for this build, but the one that I would focus on getting early is Elemental Fury. This allows attacks with non-enchanted weapons to become lightning quick, which can even kill dragons quickly. So hopefully you like this build, and I plan on redoing more of my builds in the future. If you like this build, check out this build I made 2 weeks ago.